Hello, today is May 22nd, 2018, and I'm here at Elanca with Leona Olsen.
I'm Leona Olsen from Cordova. Grew up in Titlic. My parents were Andrew and Sina Allen.
Today we wanted to talk about foods from the sea. What are your earliest memories of eating food from the sea?
My earliest memories are of eating salmon and duck soup and seal meat and clams.
What sorts of things did you learn to harvest as a girl?
In the summertime, my dad would bring fish home, and often it would be like a hundred pink salmon, and Mom would and the kids would cut the fish.
Was it just the girls who helped cut up the fish, or did the boys do that as well?
Just mostly the girls.
Was the boys and the men's job to get the fish?
Yes, they were to catch them, yes. But the younger boys would help if they stayed home. That time of the year, they would be seining, and the fish would be brought home so that we could prepare for the winter months. Mom would have a bucket, not a bucket, but a tub where she would dip the fish in salt water, and then we'd have to hang them on the poles. She would fillet them so that the tail was still on it, and then they'd hang over the pole.
For any particular length of time? Or?
Until they got a glaze on them, and then we moved them into the smokehouse and put smoke on them for a couple of days, and then we'd hang them back outside until they dried in the sun.
Was your mother particular about what kind of wood she used in her smokehouse, like alders only? Or
no, it was, we never used alders. We used driftwood. We'd gathered the driftwood before we started our smoking.
So 100 fish was enough to get you all through the winter, or that was just 100 at a time?
That was just 100 at a time.
Yeah.
My mother would we'd wait till the fish were all dried, and then we'd put them in gunny sacks, and we placed them in the loft in the smokehouse where they would stay for the winter months.
And did you keep the eggs, any eggs as well?
We did keep eggs also. It was mostly, we ate them as we got them, or else we dried them, and they were also put in and smoked along with the fish, and then we would put them away too for the winter months.
Did you ever preserve these eggs in oil of any kind?
They could be preserved in well, we didn't use soy sauce then because we didn't have freezers then either. So, but later on, the way we preserved them was we'd use the raw eggs and we'd separate them from the membrane, put them in a jar, and put either salt water or soy sauce on them, and then olive oil or Wesson oil on top of them, and then we'd put them in the freezer.
Did your father go out crabbing or?
Yes, yes. Went out, get crab, clams, go hunting for seal or ducks. So there was a lot of other
What
food.
kind of crabs did you get? Tanners?
Mostly Dungeness.
Oh, Dungeness.
Mhm.
Okay. Do you enjoy seal meat still?
Oh yes, I love seal ribs. But that's my favorite part. You take some seal ribs, prepare them with salt and garlic, and saute them and let them simmer, and they're the best.
Did your mother render the seal oil?
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. She made a clear seal oil. I do believe she put it on the stove and let it render itself, chunked the fat,
Mm-hmm.
and then in those days we had a wood stove, and it was set off to the cooler part of the stove, and that way it rendered, it melted, and then she would strain it and put it in like a big jar.
And keep that jar where? I mean, does it
She
keep?
had like we had like a shed with a porch, and in the shed we had, it was closed, and she had a place where she kept seal oil.
So it's like a cool room.
Mm-hmm.
Did you go after other fish like halibut or?
Oh yes, halibut, rockfish, cod, herring.
Have you ever worked with herring eggs in any sorts of recipes or salads?
Yes, you could make a rice herring egg salad. You'd cook your rice, and you put onion and if you had celery and carrot, and seaweed with herring egg on it, and it makes a real nice salad.
Leona, do you cook your seaweed first?
You dip the herring eggs that are on the seaweed in boiling water, and you don't cook it. You just dip it in there, and then you take it out and you refresh it with cold water.
I hear an awful lot about bidarkies or chitons
Yeah.
gathered over in Nanwalek and Port Graham, and I
Mhm.
see you have them here. Did you
I
gather
wrote
them?
They can be dropped in boiling water and take right out of the water to be cleaned, and they're good with seal oil.
Did you gather them around to Titlic?
Yes, you could gather them around to Titlic. We did have gumboots. We chopped ours up and used them. You could use it in salad. You could use it with rice. And I don't know how to say. When you made up for rice, you sautéed your rice with onion and gumboots and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly we ate them boiled. Salmon fillets were used for baking and frying, and poached salmon. Heads, tail, and backbone were used to boil and simmer till the meat and skin fell off of the bone. We deboned and removed the skin and eyeballs and so forth, and then we used the remain for chowder.
I've also heard about some elders in Nanwalek, for instance, they liked the humps
Yes,
on parts
yes.
of them.
We like to eat the hump and the head gristle raw.
Oh.
Very good. Mm-hmm.
So you just scoop them up and sit down and
Mhm.
eat? Could you catch a salmon with your bare hands, or did you use?
I did catch a salmon with my bare hands when I was a child. But often they would use a fish pew to pew the salmon. It's a pole with a kind of a sharp object on the end.
So you're like stabbing them,
Mhm.
almost not
Yeah,
hooking
pick
them in.
up.
How old were you when you got your first fish, do you think?
Oh, I don't know. Probably 6, maybe 5, 6 years old. Just going off fish to the creek with the older kids. Yeah.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
I can just imagine you.
Yeah. Often we would row over. I wouldn't, but the bigger boys would row the boat over to the creek. It was around the point. I never used one, but The older kids.
Did you ever eat any sea lion?
Yes. The meat was very grainy. We needed to cook it slowly for several hours to tenderize it. The flippers are delicious, eaten plain or pickled. They are like pig's feet when they're pickled. They're very delicious. I remember one time we came back from the village, just as later on in years after I was married, and we were having a potluck at our church, and I didn't have anything to bring. But I had this beautiful pickled sea lion flipper, and they're kind of like gristle, and they're really good. I mean, they're just delicious.
And how do you pickle it?
In vinegar with a little bit of sugar and pickling spice.
And
onions.
In a closed bag, or
In
what do you put it in?
In a bowl
In a
or
bowl.
a tin or something. Yeah, jar maybe. We had porpoise that we ate the skin of it.
Just the skin.
Yeah, it's called mung duck. And that is very good. It's raw. There's the skin and then there's the fat. Well, you cut the skin off of the fat and that's where you...
How is porpoise meat as a food?
Porpoise meat is very rich. And when you cook it, it turns black. That's because of the richness of it. Porpoise skin is delicious, salted and pickled. Meat is very delicious fried.
I've never heard about the meat turning black. I'm trying to think of any other meat
Well, it's
I know.
black to begin with. It's
It is
dark
black.
to begin with. Yes, it's like the seal. Now you can soak out your seal meat and it'll turn a lighter color, but when you cook it, it gets black again. I was told that you could get a good, what was it, a chop off of a beaver, but I've never eaten beaver either. Mostly the seafood. We're living on the coast, so that's where we got our food, was out of the sea mostly.
What would you like the younger generation to know about traditional ways of making food from the sea?
I prefer fish directly from the sea, and I wish they could preserve that. But they can't with all the sea lions out there eating up the fish. I miss subsisting from the ocean. I hope the ocean never gets polluted enough that we lose our salmon, lose our rockfish, lose all the stuff. I mean, we just lived off the land. That's what we did.
Did you ever have sea cucumber?
Yes, I did. They taste like clams. They have like buttons or something on them, and you peel that outer skin off, and then you cut the meat in strips, and you deep fry those in fat like you would a clam. You'd fry it like you dip it in flour and salt and pepper and fry it, and it's really good. Yeah, some of them get this big. Actually, there's very few sea cucumbers left in the village area now. Every once in a while you'll see a sea cucumber. Scoop it up with whatever you can scoop it with a bucket, a pot, or something.
Leona, I really want to thank you for your time and for sharing your memories of food from the sea. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking me.
How do you make stink eggs?
Well, the way I did it after years have gone by, and I was at one day my friend said to me, I use my blender to take the eggs, and what she did was she would put them in the blender and use the blender to make them all blend together, and then she would take it out and squeeze all the water out of it. I used paper towels, of course, to absorb the water. Then I put it in a jar and put it in the refrigerator. I tried, and it worked really well. I think 2 weeks would be, yeah, it might not be really like stink eggs, but it'd be getting fermented enough. So,
And was this successful?
yes.
Did
yes.
anybody else besides you like it?
I didn't like it.
What do you mix it with?
We could hardly eat it, but it was like it was when I was a kid. And you could smell probably if somebody brought my mother some, you could smell it from at least a block away.
But your mother loved it.
Yeah, yeah. You put berries and sugar and oil, and you mix this the stink eggs with it. I don't know the portions, but you go like this. And take a bite.